5 books and counting. The Tales from the Omni Vault continues to expand as a universe. Go ahead and check the links down in the description to get your copies today.
Well, this is curious. Godzilla, party hat, balloons. This feels like it should be reminding me of something, but I'm not sure what. Oh, that's right, it's November 3rd, which means it's also Godzilla Day. How could I have forgotten? Well, guess I should get a video made. You didn't really think I'd forget, did you? After all, there's a lot to talk about today. There are no less than 3 videos uploaded which need my immediate attention. And I know what some of you are thinking. I thought there were 4. What about that Godzilla vs. Jet Jaguar short film? Well, that did technically exist, but as seems to be Toho's common practice these days, it seems that that film was only online for a fraction of a millisecond before it was thrown right back into the vault, never to see the light of day again. So unfortunately, I missed that one. The trailers looked good. I'm sure they found an interesting way to do it, but it unfortunately eluded me like the Gigan one last year. So unfortunately, I have nothing to say about that. But there's plenty more to talk about, starting with the new Godzilla Minus One trailer. And this is probably going to be the last Minus One related thing I do until the movie makes its actual debut, because I don't want to accidentally come across a spoiler. And I'm going to be trusting you guys to be decent enough not to post any major spoilers down in the comments of my videos as well. But anyway, new trailer was released. It shows quite a bit of new stuff, actually. Some stuff that we've seen from the previous trailers, but a lot more new stuff here, including something that genuinely has me thinking this will be a better film. And that is this shot right here. We have the character who is presumably the protagonist with this little girl, and he says that he's doing what he's doing for her. Boom. That is instantly better than the previous Godzilla works we've been getting out of Toho. In Shin Godzilla, Yaguchi did his job because it was his job, and his job is the only thing about him, so he's gonna do his job because it's his job, and what else does he have to do other than his job? Nothing, because his job is his whole life. In the Polygon trilogy, Haruo was driven purely by his own selfish hatred, which was so incredibly exaggerated that it came out the other side as laughable, and there was no possible way we could have taken him seriously. In fact, the majority of us didn't, and the majority of us also don't like him. In Singular Point, the characters were kind of just getting swept up in all of this stuff by happenstance, and considering that they were so poorly realized that our 2 protagonists wound up switching specialties about midway through the series without anyone noticing on the first viewing, well, I can't really say that they're the most relatable people either. They didn't really have a motivation other than, we're in it, we have to do something in order to get out of it. Which in and of itself isn't necessarily bad, but it's not the most compelling motivation. Here though, we know that our protagonist is doing what he's doing for someone else. I haven't looked up any major information on the movie yet, so again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers, so I don't know what their relationship is. I don't know if theirs is a father-daughter dynamic, or brother-sister, or if this girl is just some random kid he knew from the neighborhood that he's taken under his wing after Japan lost the war. I don't know, but the important thing here is that we have a motivation for our protagonist. We have something personal, something that he is driven by, that is not just, I'm doing what I do because I need to do, or I hate everyone, or, well, guess we're stuck until we're not stuck. This is something that a proper character has. A proper character has a proper motivation. And of course, Godzilla seems to be far more lively. The more we see of him, the more we see him moving around and actually responding to things and acting like an actual living creature. Perhaps Toho has finally moved on from Shin. Perhaps they finally realized they can't replicate that and shouldn't be trying to. So now we have someone coming along to put his own personal stamp on the character. I hope that's what the thing is. I hope that's what we're seeing. Again, these are just trailers. They could be deceptive, but it does look promising. On the other hand, though, I can still acknowledge that there's a lot of stuff in here that feels familiar, like we've seen it in other Godzilla movies. The shot of Godzilla swimming under the ship, which was in the previous trailer, obviously an homage to Godzilla 2014. Finding the wrecked ship and asking what did it actually feels like it came from the 1998 Godzilla, of all things. The roar for Godzilla, a sort of remix of the 1954 noise. So we've got some familiar elements here, it's true. The question is, how familiar will they be? Is this movie just going to be like a greatest hits reel of all kinds of different stuff that we recognize that just cobbled together? Or are those familiar elements going to be reinterpreted in such a way that they still feel new somehow? And will they be juxtaposed with enough new elements that they don't feel like they're being recycled blatantly? Only time will tell, of course. The movie is out in Japan now, which means avoiding spoilers for the next month is going to be difficult. You might notice that my already very limited use of TwitX is going to be even lower than usual, specifically so I can avoid that. But otherwise, I am looking forward to seeing what they do. I am tentatively anticipating it. I am cautiously optimistic. It looks like it's going to be an improvement from what Toho's been putting out before. We will see. Now, as mentioned, I missed the Godzilla vs. Jet Jaguar short film, but I didn't miss the Godzilla vs. Megalon short film, which is a direct sequel to Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex, and it's also very different from Gigan Rex. The Godzilla vs. Gigan Rex short film was pretty much monster exclusive, all animated. There were humans present simply by way of implication, but the focus was entirely on Godzilla, the Gigan army, and Gigan Rex when he shows up. This, however, is a mix of live action and animation. The monster segments are still animated, but there are actual people that we see. And, well, that makes the film very different right off the bat. Now, unfortunately, upon my 2 viewings before making this video, the auto-generated subtitles still didn't quite figure out what the characters were actually saying. So I cannot say for certain how well the dialogue was written, because Google's auto-translate stuff always gets some weird results. But I can tell you the performances for what they were certainly did land, and the main focus, of course, has got to be on Godzilla and Megalon. There are some interesting story beats that I can tell even without the dialogue, like how the desiccated corpse of Gigan Rex is used to transfer life energy into Megalon, or how the one mysterious woman who summons Megalon clearly meant to be from this reality's version of Seatopia, if it's Seatopia. Again, no translated dialogue for me. Megalon himself is... well, the design is quite an upgrade. He looks really imposing, but I don't necessarily know if this is the same character of Megalon. See, Megalon, yes, he's considered kind of a hokey monster, but he does have a personality, and that personality is that he's kind of stupid. As monsters go, he's not bright. Think about it. The Cetopians don't just send him to the surface to wreak havoc. They first need to acquire a shiny object that will fascinate Megalon enough that he follows it around. That doesn't speak much about his intelligence, and as soon as Megalon loses sight of that shiny object, he throws a tantrum and gets lost. And of course, during the actual fight, in which even when he's paired with Gigan against Jet Jaguar and Godzilla, his best weapons are weapons that he rarely makes use of. He seems to think he's a close quarters combat monster when he's really better at ranged attacks, which means it's no surprise that he gets his butt handed to him. This Megalon in the new film is clearly more intelligent. And as such, can we really say it's still Megalon? I mean, if one of Megalon's defining personality traits is that he's kinda stupid, taking that away and replacing it with intelligence, I get why they would have done it, because, you know, this is supposed to be an update. You want to show that Megalon can be taken seriously, but I mean, if you've completely changed the personality, is it really still the same character? With Gigan Rex, you can at least look at it and say Gigan Rex is a new monster. A variation of a pre-existing one, of course, but he's separate. That's why his name is Gigan Rex. He's not just Gigan. He's different from the Gigans that we see even in that film. So I guess I'm kind of mixed about Megalon. I mean, yes, they wanted him to be serious, so they depicted him seriously, but they did wind up changing his personality as a result. Like I said, though, the design is good. I also think they clearly incorporated a little bit of Megagiris into how his wings work with the vibrations instead of having them flap. You know, overall, not a bad design. The animation was really good. And curiously, even though they tried to take Megalon seriously in this, the film still managed to incorporate some of that Showa-era weirdness with Godzilla himself. When Godzilla realizes that Megalon's more powerful than he anticipated, he summons the Iron Fist, channeling his nuclear energy throughout his body to, like, have atomic punches, or blast it out of his back so he can do a flying Dragon Ball kick or something. It's weird that that's the strangeness they went for with him. But, you know, it was keeping in the spirit of the original Godzilla vs. Megalon, where he did that running tail slide kick. So, can't really complain too much about that. And then we got something for Monarch Legacy of Monsters. You might see it billed as a trailer. It's actually a behind-the-scenes promo clip of sorts, but it does contain a lot of new footage. For starters, we get some of the clearest shots of the new monsters that we've gotten so far. We get a shot of that flying thing as it bursts through the one ship, that weird snail-mouthed monster, which apparently has more of a reptilian body. There's apparently going to be a fight between a giant crab and a mother longlegs. There's a lot going on. This is gonna be relatively jam-packed with monsters. Godzilla, we still have limited footage of him, so I am still anticipating the possibility that he's not gonna be in it that much. But there are also shots of things like his footprints and everything, which speaks to the idea that his presence will still be felt throughout the whole thing. It's probably going to go with the approach of they're building to him coming back somehow at some point. And most likely that'll be the finale. But as long as they deliver whenever he's on screen, like 2014 or King of the Monsters did, I will be okay, and hopefully the monster stuff is good. Human stuff also looks interesting. We have a plot that's going to be jumping back and forth between time periods, as we've already established. We see a little bit more of that as well. It seems like they really are trying to focus on telling a good human story here as well. Of course, they could just be saying that. Whether or not they're actually able to, we won't know for certain until the show actually debuts. But based on what little I've seen up to this point, it does look like that's what they're going to be able to do. It looks like they've at least got a rough idea of what a good human plot will look like, and especially if they can interweave it properly with the monster plot. that will definitely make this series worth watching. Again, though, this is a promotional thing. They're saying all of this stuff because they want you to see it, so of course they're going to say it's good. We won't know for certain if they're lying or not until we actually see the series itself. But then again, it can't be worse than the Skull Island animated series, right? Something else that stuck out to me is the fact that apparently they did a lot of on-location filming, as opposed to using blue screen, green screen, whatever color screen they wanted, or the auto-generated sets that they were apparently using for The Mandalorian at some point. No, they're actually they went to places. They went to glaciers, deserts, Tokyo itself. They actually were on location, which might seem like a weird thing for me to be excited about, but I mean, that's been happening less and less with major effects-driven properties these days. I mean, sometimes, of course, you have no choice but to use CGI to make a digital set because there's no way you could possibly do it practically. There's no actual location you can go to that's like it, and it might require stuff that's just too elaborate to build practically. I understand that, but then you look at some of the behind the scenes of different, say, Marvel projects recently, and they've been using CGI for stuff that they easily could have shot on location, but they didn't. And as a result, more recent Marvel movies have felt a little more hollow as of late. There's this artificiality to them that you can't necessarily put your finger on at first until you realize that's what it is, and then it suddenly clicks. But here, they're actually in real locations. That's going to add a sense of reality to the overall series, regardless of how else it turns out. There's still going to be extensive use of CGI, of course, because there are giant monsters. But the fact that they're actually putting real people in real locations, that, I think, will help the overall look of the series. It'll feel more real, is what I'm saying. So hopefully Monarch Legacy of Monsters turns out well. Hopefully Godzilla Minus One turns out well. But either way, those are the major developments for Godzilla Day. And also, you may have already seen this, but there are a bunch of collectibles coming out, like a figure of Bagon, the most famous kaiju to never appear in a movie, or official Godzilla Raids Again figures of Godzilla and Anguirus decades after the fact. Those look good, but those aren't necessarily connected to the movies. They're still part of the overall celebration, though. So, yeah, Godzilla Day has come, and boy, did it deliver some interesting stuff. Anyway, if you guys have thoughts about any of this, that's what the comment section is for. Thanks for listening to me ramble about it, though. Until such time as we meet again, this is the Omni Viewer signing off.
Thank you all for watching. Now be sure to head down to the description to check us out on other platforms, as well as find links to the 5 current books in the Tales from the Omni Vault universe. Again, thank you all, and we'll see you next time.